So, Jamaal, in the last segment, we were talking about some of the deficiencies with the incumbent Democratic Congressman Eliot Engel. This is a guy who's been in power or in the Congress for 32 years. He's voted for just about every bad bill that you can imagine if you're a Democrat. The Iraq War, deregulating Wall Street. He voted for No Child Left Behind. He voted for the 94 crime bill. I mean, this guy's been on the wrong side of issues in what you have told us is a very deep blue district. I want to go through some of the issues that you support and that you are promoting on your website. Housing as a human right. We don't hear much about housing, but we have a massive housing problem in this country, particularly in New York City.
Correct. So NYCHA houses 400,000 residents, and it's the largest public housing complex in the country. NYCHA has been neglected. It's under the jurisdiction of the federal government, by the way, and it has been neglected by the federal government for about 30 years. And funding and the opportunity to build new public housing stopped in 1999. So because of this neglect, you have rodent infestations, you have mold and mildew, you have paint that needs to get done, you have maintenance issues that have been neglected. So people are living in squalor and people are suffering and they feel neglected as a result of neglect from the federal government. So housing is a human right, and we promote and we push and we advocate for not just the revitalization of public housing, but the building of new public housing in alignment with green technology and equitable zoning that allows more affordable housing to be built in different parts of the district. We shouldn't have, when I go to the store, when I go to Rite Aid to pick up something late in the evening, there are people right here in Yonkers who are homeless, who are begging for money. That is unacceptable in a country that claims to be the richest and most wealthiest country in the history of the world. That is unacceptable for that to happen.
And on top of that, we have a problem with a lot of people aren't getting the health care that they need. You support Medicare for all. We hear Medicare for all a lot as a term. What does Medicare for all mean to you?
Well, it means that we will no longer have tens of thousands of people dying every year because of lack of health care. Again, healthcare is a human right. If someone is sick, they should be able to go to the doctor to get well. I mean, this is America. We claim to be the richest country in the world, and we have people suffering due to lack of healthcare. We also need to deal with the inequality and the racism that exists within the healthcare system as well. So when you look at something like maternal and infant mortality among developed nations, America is the worst because of the inequality built into the system. And when you look at Black women specifically, they are 2 to 4 times more likely to die during childbirth or be victims of infant mortality. So it's Medicare for all to make sure everyone has health care, but we also have to deal with the inequality within the system.
Well, when you say Medicare for all, because we hear a lot of people use those words, what specifically does it mean? I mean, I'm looking at your site. It says eliminate copays, eliminate deductibles, premiums for all American. That involves vision, dental, mental health, long-term care, and you call for an expansion of Social Security. I mean, is there a bill out there that you think that you can support, Pramila Jayapal's?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. That was the bill I'm going to mention. It means free. It means single payer. It means the government takes care of it. We have the wealth. We should take care of the people in our country. And it's not about, I often hear the argument that, people want to keep their private insurance. People don't care about their private insurance. They care about their doctors and their nurses and the people that care for them. We're not talking about changing your doctor. We're talking about just making sure all expenses are covered, co-paid, surgeries, dental, eye, whatever you need. That's what we're talking about.
And I should say that you also support restorative justice, Green New Deal. You talk about strong immigrant rights and LGBTQ rights on your website. but you're a principal of a public school. I want to talk to you about what's been going on with education really over the past almost 2 decades now in this country, where we have had a so-called corporate reform movement that has been largely for the betterment, I would say, abandoned. The Gates Foundation came out with a report by Rand almost a year ago, basically saying, like, yeah, our whole idea was wrong. We made a mistake. That exactly. $1 billion that we poured into the system and caused everybody else to invest in that way, well, yeah, forget it. Our bad. We should probably listen to educators. Has the tide changed, or are we still feeling the impact of that completely misguided strategy about education?
We are still feeling the impact because children are still over tested in our schools. We still have annual testing in grades 3 through 8, which no research supports that approach to closing the achievement gap or helping kids learn. So we're still doing that. The only spaces in which the tide is changing is where parents and teachers are fighting together against bad policy. Since No Child Left Behind, actually before that, since A Nation at Risk, 1983, Ronald Reagan, public schools and teachers unions have been under attack. And it's all a scheme to privatize public resources. They're siphoning money from public schools, putting it into charter schools, allowing hedge fund managers to include charter schools as part of their portfolio as a way to build their wealth. So it's a private scheme to take public resources away from our public schools. The tide is changing because teachers and parents are working together and fighting against that. My vision for public education includes community schools, which is a very intense, explicit focus on early childhood. That's birth through age 8, making sure we're getting the resources to the families in the communities that have been most neglected, not just by education policy, but bad policy like redlining and things of that nature. On the other end, at the high school level, we need more trade schools. We need kids to work with their hands and build and design the new green technologies for the 21st and 22nd century. And in the middle, we need more progressive pedagogies like Montessori and Reggio Emilia so kids can become collaborative and self-directed learners. This is how we tap into their passion and their purpose and allow them to express their gifts throughout their learning experiences.
And then we should say now, I mean, the only upside, I think, to the Trump administration is that the siphoning off of these public funds has been it couldn't be more explicit. If it were up to Betsy DeVos, who basically has no problem with public schooling as long as it doesn't involve schools, just public money sent to parochial schools and private institutions. I feel like I could talk to you for about an hour about education, but we're running out of time. So let me just ask you this. What is your strategy? It seems that AOC's defeat of Joe Crowley in 2016 has become a template for candidates like yourself. Give me a sense of what your strategy is to win this primary.
So we've been very lucky. From the very beginning, we've had over 400 volunteers sign up to be a part of that campaign. And right out the gate, we got out there and started canvassing in every part of the district, from Rye to Riverdale to Hastings-on-the-Hudson to Co-op City to Edenwald to Baychester to Wakefield. We're all over the district canvassing. We're conducting voter registration throughout the district. We're knocking on doors in public housing and places where people have been neglected. So throughout this summer, just in a couple of months, we have over 400 volunteers. We've knocked on over 3,000 doors. We've made over 4,000 calls. We're just out there and we're grinding and we're talking to all the people within the district. And if we can increase voter turnout by 40 to 45%, which we believe we can, we know we have a shot to win this thing. He's not going to outwork us. He may outraise us. And he may hold on tightly to his base, but he's not going to outwork us. And these volunteers are riding the progressive wave that's happening not just in the district, but across the country.
Well, people can go to bowmanforcongress.com. That's BOWMANFOR Congress.com to get more information if they want to help you out. It's been great talking to you. I wish you good luck.